You seem to still be up there somewhere.
Maybe I am. There are flying saucers.
Supposing they're Martians or something in there.
Hey guys, welcome back to another Weird Wednesday. I'm Asherz, and this is...
Tobias.
Tobias, how was your weekend?
How was my weekend? It was good. It was really good. We got our Christmas tree, so that was exciting. So every year, the day after Thanksgiving, like on Black Friday, we don't do any Black Friday shopping or anything. But what we do is we'll go get our Christmas tree, because the day after Thanksgiving, to me, marks the official start of the Christmas season. Like I won't decorate. I don't want to watch Christmas movies before Thanksgiving. I want a clear demarcation as to when the Christmas season begins, and that is the day after Thanksgiving. And so we went and got our Christmas tree. We go to the same farm every year. It's just a couple miles down the road from us, and they got live trees. You go cut them down yourself, which is really easy to do. If you've never cut down a Fraser, like we usually get Fraser firs. So if you've never cut down like a fir tree, they are weak. It is super easy to cut them down. So don't be afraid to go cut one down. It's not that hard. Anybody can do it. But anyway, so we went and got our Christmas tree. That was super fun. Emily always does a great job of like decorating. I was mostly doing work during that time because I still got to, finish this book by January 6th or something. But that was super good. It's getting very festive around here. I finally got around to watching this. I know it's not new, but Mr. McMahon, the wrestling documentary.
Okay.
Yeah. Because I loved wrestling when I was a kid, which is how I can recognize all of the similarities between that and like the paranormal industry. So I finally got around to watching that. And then there was another documentary, I think it's just called Wrestlers, about OVW, which is super cool. The Ohio Valley Wrestling, which is actually in Kentucky, but the Ohio Valley is apparently in Kentucky. Anyway, so that was super fun. So I watched a lot of wrestling documentaries and did a lot of decorating, or watched Emily do a lot of decorating. But I did cut a tree down, so I helped. I did help.
Well, that's important that you helped. So
thank you.
Very cool. I've never cut down my own tree.
It's super easy. You could totally do it.
Well, it's not so much that. It's just having a live tree in my home.
It smells good.
It does smell good, but God, it is a mess.
That's why you get the Fraser fir, because they don't lose like needles. I mean,
Really?
you're always going to lose some, but if you get the right kind of tree, you're not going to lose very many. Like we really don't lose very many needles. If you're watering your tree, and you put some like plant food in there to make sure that it stays like alive and healthy and everything, then you shouldn't be losing a lot of needles. So like I said, I recommend a Fraser fir. That's what we get every year. Barely loses in any needles. And if people are thinking like, oh, well, that's so cruel cutting a tree down, it's honestly really not. Personally, we use every part of the tree afterward because we have a fireplace. And so what I'll do is after Christmas time, I take it outside and I put it in the backyard. And then it's basically like shelter for animals for like the rest of the winter season. And then I'll cut it up with the chainsaw in spring. And we use the branches for kindling, the logs for firewood. I make a Yule log out of last year's Christmas tree every year. So it's fun. You can get all kinds of like, cool traditions and stuff going with it.
That does sound like a lot of fun. Well, on this week on Wednesdays we talk weird, learn about Christmas trees and how to.
Welcome to Christmas Tree Talk.
On Wednesdays we talk trees.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be honest. I kill succulents. I don't know why. I don't understand what my problem is. I don't know why me and plants don't get along. but we don't. And so there's that too. If I were that person, I wish I could be that person. I'm not that person.
All right. Well,
So I have my
it's your
fake
choice.
tree. Yeah, it's not a choice I'm happy with. I wish I could do a live tree, but I got my fake plastic tree. I actually have a second one now. That showed up to my house today. I don't know anything about it. My mom brought it over. So okay, so I had grandma's tree. Okay, grandma's tree is always like the best, right? Grandma spends some real money on her tree, and I had that for years and years and years. Big, beautiful, full tree. Fake trees are hard to find good ones, and
That's true.
so but you have to put it together branch by branch. It was one of those,
Oh yeah.
and it takes hours. I mean, a whole day is spent on just spreading out the branches, putting them on, and one by one, and then putting lights on. And then by that time, I'm like, I'll fucking do the rest tomorrow. you know.
Right.
Um, so I ended up buying a new tree, but before I did, my best friend needed a tree, so I offered her my grandma tree. And she took it. She's very excited to take it. And I bought a new tree, and I made a mistake, and I bought it off of Amazon. And
Oh
this
no.
fucking tree, oh my God, you guys, it's so bad. It's like, so it's 3 sections, and so you just put the 3 sections together and spread it out, right? But I'm pretty sure they're like, it's like a fucking Franken tree. I don't think any of the sections actually go together. Like, it's all oddly shaped, and it's just no, I do a really good job dressing it up every year to make it look like something. But every year I'm like, God, I'm gonna buy a tree, and then I don't. So I think sometime last year, my mom knew somebody was getting rid of a tree, so she went and got the tree, and I remember wanting it. So it must be a good fake tree. It might be another grandma tree, and it is what it is. I'd rather have a beautiful grandma tree that takes hours than my Franken Amazon tree. So it arrived today, and I haven't taken it out of the bag yet. So that'll be this weekend. So I'll let you guys know next week if it's good or not.
Well, best of luck. We actually have a fake tree too, as like a secondary tree, and we put it up in the loft, and you can see it from the living room. It's just
Mhm.
one of our decorations, but the main tree is always real.
It's always a real one, yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, I think you can even get artificial tree. I keep saying fake. Like artificial is probably a nicer way to put it. But you can I think you can get artificial trees that even smell like real trees.
Wow. Well, but how
Yeah.
long does that last?
I have no idea. Maybe
Right.
you can like re-up it with spray every year. Like they just sell a spray separately or something.
I'll just put I'll just hang the little air fresheners, the little pine air fresheners, right, on it like
There you
ornaments,
go.
you know?
Yeah, I guess you could. There's nothing stopping you.
Stuff that's
Christmas
stopping me.
tree police aren't going to kick down your door or anything.
They'd be like, "What are you doing?" Yeah, I have other trees too. I started last year. I started doing a Mothman tree, and
Uh,
it'll be going up again this year. It's actually technically a Halloween tree, right? It's all black. It's smaller, and I actually bought Mothman ornaments at the Mothman Festival this year for my Mothman tree. So
nice.
so that'll be neat. And you guys will get pictures whenever all this is done. But I love it. I love Christmas decorating. It's tons of fun. I'm definitely getting into that mindset of getting there. I'm almost there, but I just haven't put anything up yet because I'm working all the time. So it's been great. So needless to say, that's how my weekend has gone. So far, we did the Thanksgiving thing. We did that, and
Sure.
then I, spent a lot of it, like I said, working. And the thing about my second job is that it's it's not retail because we don't sell anything, but it's definitely, my cat just caused all kinds of chaos in here. It's definitely retail adjacent. So all of Black Friday and Cyber Monday, I've just been working. That's super exciting and super fun. So
I hear you. I mean, that's just the story of the holidays for
yeah.
me. Like I am always super busy. I get burnt out. Like I didn't have time to write any articles this week, so I've got no news. So sorry. So sorry. Spoiler alert. I have no news. Because that's just the holiday season. Like I'm trying to finish this damn book,
Hmm.
which has been a great experience and I love it, but it's a lot.
Yeah.
And then on top of trying to do everything else, familial obligations, like I try to remember, and people need to keep this in mind when you get really into something like the paranormal or any hobby, right? any interest. Nobody gets to the end of their life and wishes they had spent less time with the people they love. Nobody's like, oh, if only I would have spent one less weekend with my wife. Like nobody thinks that.
Yeah.
So, I try to balance everything with making sure that I am doing the things that I want to do with the people I love to have those memories, and it's tough. And if something has to give, I got to tell you, it's going to be the paranormal every time because basically everything else is more important. I mean, let's not kid ourselves,
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Well, and that's how it's been around here lately. I have no news this week either, so we can spend a little time on this. But no, that's pretty
Sure.
much how it's, my kid is a December baby. She's turning 13 this year. That's a big fucking deal, so we've been doing that and just the holidays. And, like you said, if it's between, whenever I got 5 minutes between working 2 jobs to spend time with my family, or even just doing something mindless, I'm probably going to choose the mindless nonsense because you need that in your life. You
Sure.
got to have that. So that's basically all I've been doing. And I just keep reminding myself it's temporary, right? So it will calm down. It does every year, right? And then in January, I'll be fucking bored to tears. So
yeah, no, I absolutely. I do understand that probably better than most. There's just something about this time of year, I would honestly go so far as to say too that like I don't know, and I don't know if there's just something about December or what, but it feels like there just isn't that much important news happening this month anyway.
yeah,
At least like historically, like year to year, I would say like, some of the, it's just sort of a dead zone. And I don't know if it's just because everybody's busy with the holidays. We're all beginning to talk about Christmas stuff and all of that, but I know that there is some stuff going on, and probably later this week I'll have time to write an article and we'll talk about it next week because I think there is some stuff that's on my radar. But one of the things I really try to remind myself of is just not to beat myself up over stuff like that, because if you spend as much time on social media as sort of it's necessary for us to do, as public figures, you basically are inundated with all of everything that everybody else is doing all the time. And it's easy to weigh the sum of every single person's work, like the weight of that versus what just you're doing yourself. And that's not accurate. Like I can't take what several dozen people are doing and compare that to what I'm doing myself and think that I'm not working hard enough, like that's not fair to me, and I think it's a really easy trap to fall into. So,
well, and even just doing a weekly podcast is a lot, especially
It
when
is.
you want the information to be good and accurate. It can be a lot, and it's something new that we've kind of started doing now with Tobias on, and is we take a 2 week break through the holidays, right, through the Christmas, and so anticipate that coming up. You'll have your chance to catch up if you're worried about being behind on episodes, but that is a kind of a huge deal. It feels good to be able to do something like that, so we can kind of reframe and just kind of recharge and get back into it. Otherwise, I don't think we would. I know this week, I don't remember who it was. Somebody was talking about how so and so does a show every single day on YouTube, does a live show every single day on YouTube. I fucking cannot imagine doing that.
No,
I would run out of shit to talk about.
of course you would. Any reasonable person would. Also, how could you have a life?
Right.
Like seriously.
What do you do
And I'm not
outside
saying
of
that to be mean. Like that's the reality. How could you have a family and friends and interests outside
Job,
of this shit? Yeah, like something that pays the bills. Like it just doesn't make sense. At least not to me. If that's working for somebody else, great. But yeah, my concern would be, you got to get out of the house more. That's just, you can't put all your eggs in one basket like that.
Yeah, definitely. And just let's not forget this time of year. It can be difficult for a lot of people, right? It's the sun going away is a problem for a lot of folks, and for whatever reason you're feeling some type of way about life in general, or like Tobias said, if you find yourself on social media peeking into other people's lives and feeling like, oh, you're not doing all that or whatever, don't feel bad. It goes away, right? The sun comes back again. Don't worry. After the 21st, right? We start getting our longer days back, right? They start coming. And, if it's stressful and you're having a lot of anxiety or stress around the holidays, it slows down eventually. It stops, right? It's not going to be Christmas forever. So, but for December, it is Christmas. So,
It is.
the whole,
So don't expect any work to get done. It's not going to happen.
it's
And
not
just
gonna
make your
happen.
peace with it now. And if you see somebody else working, it's probably because their life is way sadder than yours, and feel sorry for them just a little bit.
And you're allowed to enjoy what you're doing. Like, let's be honest, if you're not enjoying it, right, and it feels like work, take a break from it, step back, and then go enjoy something else for a while and come back. The paranormal will be here. I mean, when you get back, it's not going nowhere.
Nothing will have changed, I promise.
I promise. Yeah, nothing crazy is gonna happen. And if something crazy does happen, you'll know about it and you'll jump back into it. So,
Well, and that's the thing, like anytime I'm busy with the holidays or something and I don't get like a new article up, I beat myself up and then I have to remind myself nothing important has happened. Like I
right.
know that people are going to listen and be like, "Oh, but what about this or that?" And my dude, it is not that important. It really isn't. It's not the earth-shattering news that you think it is. It just is not. Like I saw the most recent thing going around is like the Belgium UFO photograph witness said he was paid to lie. And I know people are going to make an uproar about this, but it's not. It's just, I don't know. I haven't had time to look into it properly,
Me neither.
but it's very much tabloid fodder. So like mitigate your expectations
Yeah.
appropriately, people.
Yeah, I just saw it today, and again, to ruin the magic for you guys, we're recording this on Monday, not on Wednesday. It's crazy people. We can't time travel and record it. So I haven't looked into it yet. Maybe we'll talk about it next week. Who
Sure.
knows?
Yeah,
Who
I
knows?
mean that'll probably be the subject of my next article, I would
And
guess.
here's the thing too, you guys. You can always send us news tips. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. I would prefer if you send it to one of our social media accounts at Wednesday's Talk. Find us on Facebook. Find us on Instagram, on X now. We have an email address on Wednesdays. We talk weird at gmail.com. I know it's long and you have to know how to spell Wednesday, but that's a you problem, not a me problem.
Fair.
Send us a tip, or I mean, if you're really desperate, you can reach out to us individually. Can't promise Tobias will read it, but I will at least. I might not respond, but I'll read
If
it.
Asherz reads it and it's generally positive, she'll let me know and then I'll read it.
I would, yes. That is usually how that works. So send it over to me, and we'll probably talk about it. I mean, at the end of the day, you guys have to listen to this show. Tell us what you want to hear.
Right.
We're not going to be like, oh, fuck you. We're not talking about that. That's stupid.
Yeah. Well,
It's just
I'm
not
at the point
promoting.
too. Like you're right. Like it's nice when people send tips over because it makes our job a lot easier. Especially because right now I'm at the point where like the podcast is every single week, and that's a priority. I can't just skip that when I don't have time. And I can't skip the book. I signed a contract with a major publisher, right? Like I'm in it. Like that has to be a priority too. So if something has to give, it's going to be like Singular Fortean Society stuff because that pays jack shit compared to like book sales.
Yeah, right. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, if people want to make our lives easier, I'm here for it. Like, just bring it to our attention. I mean, I don't know, I get my news from various different places. Most of the time it does come from you guys, but it just depends. And lately, like Tobias said, there just hasn't really been too much happening in the weird world, and that's okay. People just aren't really outside a lot, to have too many strange encounters, or the weird lights in the sky. Actually, I feel like we get a UFO spike in the wintertime sometimes, but maybe that's the dark skies at play. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, there's generally more nighttime, I guess, where people would see stuff. I do have things that people have sent me that I have not had time to follow up on, or I have emailed the person back and not received a response. So, there's at any given time, I've got anywhere between 6 and a dozen of those that I'm juggling. And that all leads to articles and stuff too, but only if I have time to write them. So.
Yeah. Oh no, I'm the queen of I have this thing that I'm looking into, but I don't tell anybody about it. I used to joke about it back when we did Clubhouse, when that was the cool thing to do. We'd get on there, and I mean, my God, this was during the pandemic, and so God, we probably would get on Clubhouse like every day, but it was like having a phone call with friends every day. It wasn't bad.
Mm.
And I'd start talking about different things I was looking into, different things I was researching, different people I was talking to, and everybody's like, "Why don't you ever post about any of this stuff?" And I'm just like, I don't know. I'm not
Forgot.
done with it yet. I don't know. Fuck.
Right.
Never crossed my mind, I guess. Just bad at self promotion. It's whatever.
That's the part of this field that I care about the least anyway, is
The
like the
self
shameless.
promotion.
Yeah, the self promotion, the trying to be a celebrity kind of garbage. So, yeah, I don't feel the need to hype up and embellish every single thing I'm working on. It's those fucking people. We all know people who do this shit. They'll fucking make an announcement that they're gonna make an announcement. And I'm just like, fuck you. What? You're announcing that you have an upcoming announcement? Eat shit. No, thanks for wasting the 2 seconds it took me to read this. Nobody needed to
Oh.
fucking know that.
Yeah, you're right about that. No, I've done that though.
Ridiculous.
It is
You
ridiculous.
son of a
actually.
bitch.
I know. I suck. But I can say why I do it is because the need to feel relevant on social media. If you're not constantly posting about something, you're irrelevant, and how that kind of makes you feel. So, don't make us feel that way, guys. Go grab your favorite on Wednesdays We Talk Weird episode and go share it out to everybody you know. Do it for us.
There you go.
That would be a great Christmas gift. So anyway, with that being said, you guys aren't here to listen to us rant. We didn't even have any news, and we are still fucking 20 minutes into the show and haven't even talked about the topic.
Look, if you're listening to this show, you have to be here to listen to me rant a little bit. That has to be part of the reason you're here.
It's the price you pay, is to listen to the rants.
You wouldn't be here otherwise.
That's a good point. So, anyway, let's get into it. This episode is, of course, a part of our special Solved series. So, spoiler alert, right in the title, you guys already know how this is going to go, don't you? Sorry to hurt your feelings. This is going to be an interesting conversation that we're going to have. Tobias, do you have any history with the Minnesota Iceman?
I do. I 100% thought that this was legit when I was a little kid.
Same.
I was sure of it. I thought that we had a Bigfoot that was trapped in a block of ice that just, for some reason science was inexplicably ignoring, and the only people who cared were carnies, and and that was just one of life's mysteries. But I'm all grown up now, and it's far less. I mean, I shouldn't say I won't say it's far less interesting, but it is somewhat disappointing in the actual outcome.
And even though we know where this is going to go, it's still very important to talk about, and it's fun to talk about, especially because I think this series is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of them, right? There's not a lot of definitive hoaxes out there, but there are some that we do know are hoaxes. But this one gets interesting because there's a lot of conspiracy to it, and there are kind of some moving parts that do kind of feed into each other and make sense. And we'll kind of get into that because the Minnesota Iceman was lost for a while until it randomly popped back up again. And, again, I'm kind of jumping the shark a little bit. But anyway, what is the Minnesota Iceman? It was a strange humanoid type creature that was encased in ice for who knows how long. So there's a reason I'm saying that. It's because the Minnesota Iceman happens to have multiple multiple origin stories. We're going to talk about some of those. So the Minnesota Iceman was it was something that was taken around to different sideshows and circuses and fairs, mostly fairs. You'll see that kind of shit. You don't really see that kind of shit anymore at fairs, which makes me,
I
I'll be honest,
wish.
very sad.
Yeah, I would go all the time if there were legit like
Icemen or whatever.
yeah, I mean, like actual attractions
Right.
at like carnivals and stuff. I would go constantly. We went to the what the hell is it called? Like the oddities fair or whatever. That's not the right name, but anyway. And it goes from like city to city, and it was in Milwaukee. And we went not this year, but last year. And yeah, and they had like a little like sideshow display that you could go and pay extra for, and they had like the body of a great alien and a mermaid skeleton and all that kind of fun shit. And it was great. I was like, none of this is real, but I'm having so much fun.
Exactly. It's wonderful. One of my good friends, she owns the local oddity store, and she's got the coolest shit. She's got a Fiji mermaid. She's got a fairy skeleton. I mean, where else are you going to see a fairy skeleton? You're going to see it at now at like oddity stores and museums and, like you said, these expos that they have. But back in the day, you'd have to pay a whole nickel and go into the little pop-up tent at the fair to see it. And they don't do that anymore. And that makes me sad. I remember when I was a kid, they had a Bigfoot at one of the fairs. And, come see I think it was Abominable Snowman.
Oh, yeah.
It was one of those. And I wanted to go see it so bad. And my parents were like, it's not real. And I was like, oh, but what
you know what? Is? You're not real.
You're not real. Yeah, I should have just raised hell and threw a temper tantrum and told you again. But I wanted to. I'm so sad. I was like, oh, it's not real. I'm like, how do you know? You haven't seen it. How do you know it's not real? Like, it's not real. I was like, okay. Anyway, they don't do that now, but they did used to do it back in the day. And as far back as like the 90s / early 2000s when I was a kid. So kind of a recent thing that they've gotten rid of. I say bring it back. Local fairs and carnivals do that shit. But I digress. The Minnesota Iceman was definitely on circuit at these types of occasions, and it was toted around by a man named Frank Frank Hansen. I don't know why I'm struggling with that. I keep wanting to say Chris Hansen, and that's not the same guy.
Why don't you just have a seat right over there, Minnesota Iceman? You want to tell us why you were here visiting this girl?
Did you know she was 13? He's like, I'm a 500-year-old Iceman. I don't know that matters. It didn't back then.
If anything, that's just, you should know better by like several centuries.
Well, you should have learned by now. He walks outside, and he doesn't walk outside. He wobbles because he's still in the ice block, and then the police just knock him over, and they can't cuff him. They just pick him up and carry him off.
Exactly. Looks like it's time to put this child predator on ice.
Oh. I have a feeling that like you planned that. Maybe you did. Maybe it was.
It's like the only research I've done for the whole episode was that one joke, and now I'm tapped out. I got nothing.
And you wrote it, and you're like, that was it. I don't need to say anything else.
Absolutely, like high-fived myself. Yeah, that was it. It's Tobias, you son of a bitch, you've done it again. It was, you brilliant bastard.
It was pretty good. So,
thanks.
Anyway, it's not Chris Hansen, it's Frank Hansen. And Frank is known as being a promoter, a showman?
Professional carnival like huckster, yes.
Right. I mean, he's P.T. Barnum, right? He's a different type of P.T. Barnum. And, we all know about that guy. So, or maybe we don't. Maybe one day we'll talk about P.T. Barnum.
We should. It's fascinating.
That's a whole thing. So Hansen claimed that he was not the owner of the Iceman. Oh, no. The owner of the Iceman was some wealthy mystery businessman in California.
And that's such a classic part of this kind of con, is you have to have some kind of shadowy, anonymous figure kind of pulling the strings that you can use as an excuse anytime you need it. And we're going to see that later in this story, but note it now. because it's important. And this isn't the only time you're going to see this. This is something that's going to pop up in a lot of, let's say, less than credible paranormal cases.
Oh yeah, and he's like, people are like, oh, what about that Iceman? He's like, oh yeah, my Iceman. They're like, oh yeah, that's yours. Oh no, that's not mine. I'm just holding it for a friend.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just so strange. But of course, he never disclosed the identity of this wealthy California man.
Right, because he doesn't exist.
Right. So anyway, of course, then that leads to a murky, long list of multiple origins of the Iceman. For one, it was found, the first origin here is found on a block of ice floating off the Siberian coast by a Russian seal hunting vessel.
Absolutely. Like you got these icemen floating in the ocean like fucking, ice cubes in a refreshing beverage, apparently, just bobbing along to be found. No, that just makes sense.
And they happen to take a break from their seal clubbing to look over and go, oh,
right.
That's a dude.
Yeah, like what feels better after a long day of clubbing seals than just relaxing with a tall class of Minnesota Iceman?
No, really, that shit is brutal. Don't Google it.
Oh, it's awful.
It's fucking the worst thing ever.
No, don't club seals, you fucking pieces of shit.
Just, if this is the true origin story, I hope that finding the Iceman imposed a curse on these people. Because
they're all doomed to themselves become Minnesota Icemen.
Ooh, that's a good one. That's a good curse.
That would be a fitting punishment. Because you're right. It's shitty.
Yeah.
It is absolutely brutal. There's no point. We don't need to be clubbing seals or really any of that shit. Like clubbing seals, like mass, like fishing, killing dolphins, hunting whales, all of that shit. We just don't need it. This isn't the fucking 18th century. Like, we don't need to do that shit.
If I find out that you club seals, I'm going to club you. That's a threat.
Right. You can't see me, but I'm like hastily shoving a club and a seal underneath the chair I'm sitting on before you can see it.
So anyway, that's the first origin story. The second one, of course, it was found by a Japanese whaling ship. Whaling, another problematic thing that happens in the world. Of course, I like this one. It was found in a deep freeze facility in Hong Kong.
Okay.
Like, what's going on?
I don't know. Do they live in a John Carpenter movie? Like, what the hell?
Okay. How does this set of circumstances happen? Like, first of all, I don't know what a deep freezing facility is. I assume it's a place where you deep freeze stuff.
Yeah, no, at the risk of mansplaining this, what a deep freezing facility is, it's a facility where they freeze things deeply.
Deeply. Got it. That makes sense. So, you're so smart. I didn't think about that.
Thank you.
But right, is it like a casual? I probably should have Googled this, and I know somebody listening knows exactly what the fuck a deep freezing facility is. They probably own one themselves.
They're listening at work at the deep freeze facility.
Right. They're like, well, what the fuck? You don't know that? No, I don't. I live in Ohio. I have a freezer at my house that I use. I don't need a deep freezing facility. But to me, what is it like? It's like a storage unit, right? But where people can like store their meat, so they don't have to store it at home. And they go.
I would assume. Well, I mean, okay, maybe, and this is speculation, of course. If you say have a business where you have to transport lots of frozen goods, then I could see you needing a place to like store them temporarily.
Okay.
Sure. Okay.
So someone just walks in with their Minnesota Iceman.
Right. Bigfoot
like,
frozen in a block of ice. Yeah.
And that's just, we don't know who, but someone just says, hey, I found this. I just want to freeze it. I'm going to save it for a nice holiday dinner. I mean, what?
You're going to drive yourself crazy pretending like this isn't made up.
No, I know. You're right.
You know what I mean?
That's fair. That's fair. And then, of course, the other explanation, and this one we see a lot in cryptozoology, it was shot on a hunting trip in the Whiteface Reservoir in Minnesota. So
Yeah.
there's
No,
that
that's the
explanation.
one.
I mean, that one makes the most sense, I guess, out of all of them. None of it makes sense, but okay, we'll just say that. Who shot it? I guess the California businessman. I don't know. What was he doing in Minnesota? I don't know. Why is it called Whiteface Reservoir? I don't
Do we want the answer to that?
know. You're right. We
I don't
don't.
know. Yeah, maybe we'll just continue living in blissful ignorance.
So all of this took place roughly in the 1960s, the late 1960s. Um, it got huge in 1968 when two people that you guys should know, Ivan Sanderson and Bernard Heuvelmans, were became very interested in this subject. Okay, and in December of 1968, they were invited to come check it out for themselves. Right, they were invited to Hansen's house, which you don't ever want to be invited to Hansen's house. We just went over this.
Right?
But they got caught chatting with 13-year-olds on the internet. So they went to Hansen's house.
Like that's just the invitation to the party
I'm glad
is
they're both.
being catfished by a 13-year-old
Yeah,
on the internet.
yeah, exactly. I'm glad they're both dead. Otherwise, we'd be sued.
Right. Yeah, none of that happened. Nobody has more respect for Bernard Heuvelmans and Ivan T. Sanderson
Yes, you're
than
right.
us. My God, relax.
Yeah, chill out. So they go to his house, and it was a fascinating experience that they had. Knowing Sanderson and Hoovelmans, they're like, I don't know, what would you they're like the Batman and Robin of cryptozoology, right?
I mean, they're definitely very, I would say, well respected like researchers and investigators in that field. I mean, they're two of the pillars of cryptozoology as it exists today. I
Yeah,
don't think that the field would exist if it wasn't for like those two figures and the work they did. Certainly, it wouldn't be recognizable, you know. So
yeah, yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. They're they're both academically, credible. So it's not just
yeah,
a couple of guys in hats with YouTube channel. Like this is
yeah.
the real deal.
It's not me and Adam just like out blundering around in the woods at midnight.
Although you and Adam are probably significantly more entertaining.
It's true.
But if you don't know who Sanderson and Hoovelmans are, you just stop, go Google it. I mean, figure it out.
Right. Yeah.
You got a long ways to go. We're way past that over here on Wednesdays. We talk weird. So they go out, they check it out. I did steal a description to read to you guys about what it is they observed when seeing the Iceman. I'm going to go ahead and read it to you. So it says the body was that of a robust, barrel chested male with a thick neck and large hands and feet. Its face was broad, flattened, and possessed a short, upturned nose and prominent brow ridges. An eyeball dangled from one of the sockets, apparently resulting from a gunshot to the back of the head, and a bend in the forearm was interpreted as evidence for a fractured radius and ulna. And then Sanderson and Hoovelmans were intrigued by its enormous hands. Its thumb was slender, tapered, and long. Its nails were flat, yellow, and of an appearance that almost looked manicured. And a heel-like pad was present on the palm's outer side, a feature suggested by Sanderson to be indicative of habitual quadrupedal behavior. At one point during the examination, the glass over its case cracked, releasing an odor described as that of decomposing flesh. So, the odor. Let me talk about
Mhm.
that. We're going to talk about the odor. There are there's a lot of anecdotal evidence, anecdotal accounts of people who have seen the Minnesota Iceman and something happened, right? When they went to go see it at the fair that day, the freezer went out and so it thawed a little bit and they could smell it and it was horrible. Some
Mhm.
people like report this terrible odor, constantly around this, surrounding this creature. Which of course a lot of people take that and they go, "What? See, it's real. We know it's real."
Sure. I mean that odor too is interesting. Because one, yes, the odor of decomposition is what one would expect if you had a dead body
Sure.
that was thawing out in this giant ice cube, but also because um, foul odors are often said to accompany various cryptids, especially Bigfoot. That's a big one. And everything from the smell of sulfur to rotting meat to like sort of rancid garbage. All of these smells have said to or are associated with Bigfoot and other hairy humanoids. And so I think that it's not just that it smelled bad. I think that it smelled bad, um, and that is consistent with what is so often reported up into the modern day. And so when people see that now, it speaks to them on a level that they may not even realize. They may just be making this like subconscious association between that scent and Bigfoot sightings, but it definitely exists. And I think it's one of those things that because it makes sense to people and they're familiar with it, and it's such a part of Bigfoot lore, that they think it lends it credibility.
Yeah, it's well, and you see it, right? And your brain says this thing is really old. It probably stinks. So, is it some type of illusion that's built up? Or did potentially Frank Hansen, who is damn good at his job and this is his livelihood, keep a decomposing animal around the display?
What?
I mean, I'm just throwing it out there. I wouldn't put it past the guy. Um,
It could also just be that, like, because, look, for the sake of argument, let's say that it is a foam and plastic replica or whatever. It's made out of rubber or something. That shit doesn't smell good,
No, it doesn't. It doesn't,
Like
but it doesn't smell like decomposition.
It could if you were primed to believe that that's what you should be smelling and
That's
you're
true.
looking to smell it.
That's true.
Like it can smell real fucking bad.
That's a
So
good point. Well, anyway, so they examine this thing, and of course, the details about it. I know some people are interested in it. It looks like Bigfoot. It's a hairy hominid. I mean, what do you want me to say?
yeah, it's like a little guy though. It's like a little Bigfoot. They describe it as being like 1.8 meters tall, which is I think like 6 feet tall.
Yeah, and so it's not 15 feet like I know definitely exists and is out there in the woods.
I don't even consider something a Bigfoot if it's not at least 9 or 10 feet tall.
Yeah, at minimum, right? So
Minimum.
it's got to be a juvenile. So of course they get super fascinated with this because Sanderson and Heuvelmans, they have now dedicated their life to cryptozoology. They created cryptozoology. That's their thing. And they have finally fucking found something. And they're like, holy shit, this is like a huge deal. So they get into contact with the Smithsonian. And the Smithsonian goes ahead and sends out one of their guys there, a primatologist named John Napier. Napier, is that right?
Yeah, I would think.
And he comes out and he examines it. And this is when he says, y'all, this is just made of latex. Now, Sanderson and Heuvelmans weren't there during the examination. So that kind of makes this all the more interesting because once he does that, once the primatologist comes out, a couple of months before that happened, Hansen pulled the display completely and wasn't showing off the Iceman. Like once he got word that other people were going to get involved, he pulled this display and wasn't showing around anybody. So he has the primatologist come out from the Smithsonian to prove him wrong, I guess, because allegedly Hansen knew that he would be in big trouble for possessing a dead body of some sort because Sanderson and Heuvelmans were like taking it far. Like they come up with a name for this species. I mean, they were like on top of this being legitimate and real, and finally they have found evidence of Bigfoot or whatever. another type human. And Hansen was scared to death that he would be in trouble for possessing it. So he says that he switched the body. He gave the original body back to the wealthy California businessman and created a fake latex body in its place. And that is what the primatologist examined that day. Sanderson backs this up. Ooh, that's a bad look.
It is. Well, and the thing is too, like, this primatologist, it's not just that, like, he found the company who made it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, like, and they were like, yeah, we made this so this guy could, you know, have it as his carnival display or whatever.
Yeah. He found that it was commissioned by Frank Hansen himself in 1967.
Right, which for those of you keeping score at home is before it gained widespread popularity. Yeah. So why did he have, if it is the case that there was a legitimate body that was swapped out for this, you know, silicone and rubber one or whatever, why did he have it locked and loaded, ready to go? Right? Like, that doesn't make any sense. Did he anticipate needing to quickly switch it out in case he was to be, like, discovered as a murderer because this was, like, too close to human beings or something? Or could it just be that the whole thing was a con from the fucking start?
Well, it's definitely because Hansen is also a psychic and he knows the future and he knew that this was going to happen.
Oh, I mean, yeah, that's probably it. I mean, I don't know why I didn't think of that. Boy, there is egg on my face. I gotta tell you, I feel like a real idiot.
Told you. No, you know, it's. I mean, okay, all right, whatever. But what Sanderson says is that, you know, Napier did not see the same thing that him and Hooverman saw that day. Like, there's no way. I mean, they took detailed notes. They made drawings of this thing, and they said that what Napier described to them was not the same thing that they saw. And of course, you know, they go back to, well, what about the decomp smell? I mean, come on now. That was a big deal. And this is where the Minnesota Iceman kind of continues to be, unfortunately, up for debate for a lot of people. There are a lot of people that think that the Smithsonian covers up a lot of things. And yeah. I mean, I'm sure that they have some really interesting stuff, right, in the back of the Smithsonian. I'm sure they do. But I don't see any reason for them to cover this up.
It's one of those things where people love to pick on any scientific institution that is convenient to their narrative to use them as like the villain of their conspiracy theory. Sans any evidence whatsoever. Like, there is no evidence of the Smithsonian covering anything up other than some anecdotal testimony given by people with obviously something to gain by lying about it. And it just drives me bananas. Like, it's an insult to what I'm sure are very hardworking and dedicated and underappreciated people actually contributing to society, who probably get more than enough shit from crazy people all the time that they definitely don't deserve anybody else piling on. Yeah, the whole thing is just ridiculous. The other big one, of course, being that, like, the Smithsonian is covering up giant skeletons. That's the other big one that you'll always hear about.
We'll do giants one of these days, I promise.
We totally will, and you could probably guess what my feelings on that shit is. But yeah, anyway.
We'll do it. I'll just be honest. Yes, it's something up front that I'm like, no way, right? But I haven't deep dived it, so I'll give it a fair shake one of these days. Sure. I promise. But that's not today. Today we're talking about the Minnesota Iceman, which we know is fake. But again, some people don't. Some people will die on that hill. And
Oh, this will be controversial. This is a controversial episode.
absolutely. I mean, which is kind of the point of, I guess, doing this series. I don't know. I mean, I asked you guys on social media what you guys thought. I'd say I'd say more people than not, thought it's a hoax, right? We know it's a hoax, and that's the only thing that matters. Chad Lewis threw his 2 cents in. He said, a strange, puzzling, and interesting case. All versions. I visited Frank Hansen's old place in Rolling Stone, Minnesota a few times and talked with a few neighbors who remembered seeing the display sitting out in his barn area. It would have been great to see the original, but,
That's because Chad is the nicest guy in the world.
super nice.
And he's never just going to come out and say something is bullshit, because that's not his deal. He doesn't do that.
Yeah, I
You know,
would have loved to have
like,
seen the original too. I mean, even if it was fake. You know,
sure. But
that's
like, no, I mean, yeah, no, Chad, he just does. He's just a nice guy. He's not going to come out and say shit like that. So,
but I think that that's what a lot of people, right? He didn't say, oh, it's definitely real, it's definitely fake. I think a lot
no,
of people recognize it for what it is. It's a really interesting story. And that's again one of the reasons why we talk about this stuff. We can still enjoy stories. We're allowed. Because I agree. I would also have loved to have seen and smelled the original. I would have been all over that shit. But of course, this is not. We're not at the end here. In the 70s, the Minnesota Iceman resurfaces again. Right, it's back on its carnival circuit. It's making its rounds everywhere, allegedly by Frank Hansen, or I keep calling him Hansen, and it's like I can't get like one of his names right. It's either Chris Hansen or it's Frank Hansen. That's just in my mind.
oh
That's what
boy,
it is. But people have reported it differently. So the question remains, what happened to the original? Well, we'll get there, we think. So I do want to kind of take a side note and say that this particular incident, this artifact, right, this item, would end up becoming the rift between Ivan Sanderson and Bernard Heuvelmans. I know.
no.
That's so sad. It's not even real. But because they were so convinced that it was, they had this whole plan. So you know how we talked about earlier, how like I don't share shit on social media, and Tobias, you got shit to share, but you're not sharing it yet because you're not like done with it yet, right? You want to research it. You really want to
Right.
make sure that the shit that you're sharing is credible and good before you
Yeah.
throw it out there into the world. And they had this agreement to do exactly that. This was a big fucking, if this was legitimate, this was a big fucking deal. And they're right. It is a big deal. So they said, hey, look, we're not going to tell anybody about this, even though people kind of knew. They weren't going to say anything about it. And they were just going to collect their data. They were going to have the primatologist come out, see what he knew. From there, of course, we're, probably do testing and an autopsy, and it'll be great. Well, Sanderson didn't keep his end of the bargain. He ended up writing an article about it in early 1969, which hurt Bernard's feelings.
Not cool, man.
Well, it's
I
not
mean,
cool. I know.
it's not cool.
Yeah, so rude. And then so Heuvelmans went and wrote his own article, and they had this just big fucking blowout. And so I found that interesting. I knew that they had a big blowout. I didn't know it was over the Minnesota Iceman.
Yeah, of all the stupid fucking things. And if that just isn't this dumbass industry all day, too, right?
Yeah.
Like, you're friends with somebody, you stumble upon something that you find interesting, and then instead of doing the thing that you agreed on, one person just has to start the race to see who can be the biggest dipshit celebrity wannabe first by trying to get attention for it before the other person. Like, come on, guys. Like, are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah.
Seriously. And like, how often do we see that shit today? It never ends. It never ends. There is nothing new to any of this. It's secular. It happens over and over and over again.
Yeah, no, that's exactly. There are times where we'll do an episode on something, And then somebody else will turn around in the same fucking week and do the same shit, which is fine. We don't own these topics, right? It's not about that. But like, it's just, it feels like an attack. I guess I don't know how to describe it unless you guys have experienced it. It feels kind of like a slap in the face. So I understand how Hoovelmans would feel about this. Because you kind of have these weird unspoken terms within this community, and you can't please everybody. Like, it's not possible. And shit happens, right? There's only a handful of topics you can pick. So coincidences happen, right? But then it'll like get to the point and you're like, okay, this shit isn't a coincidence anymore. Like, literally nobody else talked about this. We just talked about this, and now you're talking about it after you covered the same shit we covered last week. That's weird. So I'm just saying, give a shout out. It costs you nothing to at least shout out the people who influenced you to cover a certain topic, or,
Sure.
look into a certain thing, or, it doesn't hurt, even though I'm sure Sanderson mentioned that him and Hoovelmans went and checked it out. Like, was it really worth ending a friendship over? It's not.
Right? You would not believe how many people try to cut me out of my own work and give presentations on the investigations that I've done that they weren't even a part of.
Yeah.
So like, I get it. That shit happens all the time. Like, if you hear somebody in the Wisconsin or really anywhere in the Midwest giving a talk on Mothman sightings in the Midwest, and it's not me, you should question them and be like, really, where'd you get all this information? Like, did you investigate these personally? Oh, you didn't? Interesting. What's your source? Why isn't that person giving the talk instead? It's probably because I'm busy or I don't want to, but you know what I mean? Like, that shit, it happens a lot, and it's fucking weird to me every single time. Because again, nobody owns this stuff, but like, at the same time, people do own their work, And so if you have two people where they both put a lot of work into investigating something, and then one person jumps on it to write an article or something and try to get out ahead of it, then that's a betrayal, and that shit sucks. And I am in the unfortunate and unique position of knowing kind of how that feels, like, at least in the sense where like, people will use my work to like try to get attention for themselves. And it's irritating, like, if you want to go out and investigate Mothman sightings in the Midwest, and you find witnesses and they want to talk to you, or they approach you and you go to the sighting areas and shit, that's fucking awesome.
Yes.
Yeah, go you did it. But if you just have an opinion on my work that you want to turn into a presentation, go fuck yourself. Like, you don't know anything about it. I guarantee that you don't understand or have any idea of the full scope of this at all, because you weren't there and you don't know everything that I know, and you've never talked to me about it. Like, come on.
Oh yeah. I just had today I made a post on Facebook about like how like you could say skinwalker and Wendigo. Like, there's this weird thing like online where like people are like, they'll come up with stupid ass names. Like, they call skinwalkers flesh pedestrian. It's like, just fucking say skinwalker. Like, and it's because they're like, well, you can't talk about it or it calls them to you. And it's like, it doesn't. It really doesn't. And that's not what they mean anyway. They just mean if you're talking about them in general, and that these are allegedly ancient evils, and you're not going to fool them by calling them a stupid fucking name. Like, they know you're talking about them. And somebody was like, oh, try to do that in Appalachia. And it's like, I have, guys. I literally talk about this stuff all the time. Never seen a skinwalker or a Wendigo. It's never happened. They've never come for me. I'm publicly calling you out, Wendigo and skinwalkers. Come for me. I dare you. I'll talk about you until the day I die, and I guarantee it's not going to be you that takes me. It's going to be type 1 diabetes.
Well, turns out the real monster was diabetes. Interesting. Yeah, I mean, like, yeah,
it's just stupid.
It's also stupid, and like, it's not like people can't have opinions on this stuff.
Yeah.
It's not like people can't have opinions on my work. Of course you can, but like, don't present yourself as an expert or something when you're not. Don't use other people's work to try to like catapult yourself into celebrity status or something,
Yeah.
because it doesn't work anyway, and people are just going to think you're an asshole.
Right. Don't do that shit to your friends. These are your friends.
Yeah.
Like, that's, these guys were friends and they threw it away over a latex suit and a block of ice. That shit's
Wow.
stupid.
It is
So,
stupid.
Anyway, with that, another rant for you guys on this wonderful, wonderful episode. Yeah, but no, it's important because, like, obviously we're not doing better. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
what are we, 60 years later? We're still not really doing better.
It's the same shit. Like, it is the same pathetic shit of like everybody wanting, it's just this crab mentality of everybody trying to drag down the person in front of them, to step over them, to get out of the damn bucket. And you know what? When you do that, the crabs behind you are just going to do the same damn thing to you, and nobody gets fucking anywhere.
Exactly. And that's exactly what happened in this case. Sanderson didn't go anywhere with it. Of course, listen, Ivan Sanderson's done way more work for cryptozoology than I have, right?
Sure.
That, I'm not saying the guy's terrible or anything. I'm just saying, like, he did do this thing and it didn't bring him anything except for ruining a friendship with somebody who probably the only fucking person he can relate to, really. Let's be honest,
yeah, right.
at that time.
Yeah, like, who else are you going to get to go see the Minnesota Iceman with you?
Exactly.
Really?
It's just not worth it. So that happened, and that's just sad. That's the saddest thing to come out of this situation. But like I said, it was seen more through the 70s. You had more people throughout the years that would come forward in all different decades, right? Saying, "Oh, I've seen it. I've seen it. I've seen it." But it kind of disappeared into obscurity until 2013, where the Minnesota Iceman, allegedly the original Minnesota Iceman, ended up on auction on eBay and was bought by Museum of the Weird curator Steve something. I don't know his name. And
it's like Busty, I think.
Yeah, whatever.
It might be. I don't know if it's pronounced Busty. But that's what I'm gonna say. It's Busti.
Steve Bustanuts. I don't know his name, but
I like Steve Busty.
Steve Busty. Okay, we'll say that. It was purchased by Museum of the Weird, and now that's its home. It lives there, and that's in Austin, Texas.
Yes.
Yes.
Correct.
And you can go see it. You can go see it right now. It's there. People have taken modern photographs of it. You can Google that shit and pull up modern photographs of this Minnesota Iceman. Now, I don't know if it is the original. Like I said, when people saw it, there were like inconsistencies in what it looked like. Some people would say that like its mouth was open and it had like 4 rows of teeth. Some people would say that like the hands were positioned differently. There were different descriptions that people were giving to it. And of course, because it's been unfrozen and refrozen and unfrozen, some people speculate that it's still the same suit. It's just that it's been repositioned due to the refreezing process.
Yes.
Who knows? We don't have a way to know if this is the original Minnesota Iceman. But what we do know is that it's still fake, because otherwise we would have cut it open by now, right? And maybe done some DNA testing on some hair. But if we did that, Steve would lose one of his moneymakers. And I'm not saying Steve's a bad guy. Again, I love that shit. I want to go to the Museum of the Weird and shake hands with Steve Busty and, go check out the Minnesota Iceman. But we have these things like the Shunkaworkin. That's another one that's like on display somewhere at a certain store. And like, it's obviously a tourist trap and people come in. We could solve that mystery by just pulling some hair off of it and testing it. But keeping the mystery alive is lucrative, and I guess that's okay too. But this is where kind of that weird information comes from, because who was the eBay seller? Like, who had this before Steve got? Because it wasn't Frank Hansen. So it obviously had another life that happened for probably at least 20 years. I mean, again, we have reports from the 70s. We have sparingly reports from like the 80s and 90s, but nothing significant. So there's kind of some missing time for it. So where the hell was it all the way up until, 2013? I had found a guy on the internet. I, can't say it's credible. It's a guy on the internet who says that he was the one that listed the eBay listing. Actually, that one is credible. I'm sorry. It is credible because he was working for a haunted house, and he says that this was a prop that was part of their haunted house. And somehow he knew what it was, right? He just happened to be that special fucking nerd. He knew exactly what this thing was. And the haunted house owner had no idea, had absolutely no clue. And he had actually been in talks. He had been trying to get it to Lauren Coleman. And the haunted house owner was like, yeah, Lauren Coleman wasn't going to pay for it. So the haunted house owner was like, well, I want somebody to pay me for it. So we're going to put it on eBay. That's
Right.
what he did.
Of course.
So, I mean, we at least kind of know that part of it. But how the fuck did this haunted house owner like get a hold of this thing? Like, what happened there? I don't.
It's hard to say. I mean, this is the kind of shit that just happens, though. Like people pick stuff up at auction. You're trying to get oddities for your haunted house or whatever, and so maybe you go to like auctions where shit like that is going to be sold off. You're like, okay, well, here's an estate sale from somebody who was worked in the carnival their whole life or whatever. Like, I'm going to go check it out, see if there's any weird shit from my haunted house, like that kind of thing, probably.
Yeah, and I mean, which is why I do have hope for certain things, right? Again, this isn't Bigfoot, right? We know it's not Bigfoot, because if it was Bigfoot, Museum of the Weird curator would be so much richer, right?
Right.
But there are like certain mysteries that we have here that circumstances could work out. This is the logic that I use for like the missing Thunderbird photograph. You heard of that one? You know that one?
Oh yeah, no, I'm familiar.
Classic. Where everybody saw this photograph. Everybody, the mother has seen this photograph, and yet it is missing. And it could just be sitting in someone's fucking attic somewhere, and we're just waiting for them to die and the right person to get a hold of that photograph. Or
it doesn't exist.
Or it doesn't. It's possible it doesn't exist. I'm a believer. I'll die on that hill, right? That's also me with a plesiosaur Nessie. It doesn't make sense, but I don't care.
Oof. All right. Well, best of luck. I'm rooting for you.
I appreciate it. I want it to be real so bad. So I will hang on to the hope that it might be, right? Some of these things could happen, right? It's not completely unheard of. It's just that it's literally never happened yet. We've literally never made some crazy discovery in somebody's garage or attic or storage unit, or like that's never happened yet. But clearly things do kind of get lost in the shuffle, even if they have some type of importance, even if it's not the original Minnesota Iceman, and this is a legit dead body and it is a latex suit. It's still a big piece of history that just went off the grid for years and years and years, that was found all of a sudden, so like I said, there's some mystery still in there, and you can hang on to that, and that's fine. But I suggest you just go see it for yourself and ask Steve all about it.
Well, what Steve has is definitely not real. And we know that because when it was bought, the chest freezer that it was housed in was not operational.
Oh.
Yeah. And like this was part of the actual like eBay listing. I'll just read it. It says, the chest freezer that it is housed in is unfortunately not operational at this time. It has been looked at by a licensed refrigeration contractor who determined that the compressor needs to be replaced. A new custom sheet of glass was added in September of 2012. Blah, 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 yada, yada, fake. So yeah, like it wasn't,
in the art,
it wasn't even being refrigerated. Yeah. So it would be a pile of melty goo and bones, which it's not. It just looks like a big old Minnesota Iceman because it's fucking fake. And it's always been fake.
Looks like it died yesterday. Hasn't aged a day. So
right.
That is so it came with the whole freezer and everything.
Yeah, I mean, the freezer didn't work. It needed a new compressor. I don't know if dude put a new compressor in it or not. I would just for the effect. You know what I mean? So you can be like, oh, look at the monster frozen in ice and whatnot.
Put it in a different one. I mean,
Oh yeah, you could just go, well, I don't know. It might be cheaper to just fix the original compressor. I'm not a refrigerator expert. I'm just saying.
I think that the haunted house owner probably found it in a deep freezing facility
In
when,
Hong Kong.
in Hong Kong when he was picking up his meat one day, right, just for his
Yeah.
family. That's where it was hanging out, and that's where that story came from.
Yeah.
No,
It's legit.
it's definitely. I know that the eBay listing was saying that it was fake. I mean, it was talking about it's famous for being fake. Like,
Right.
basically, I mean, it very much did not try to advertise it as a legit hominid. It was advertising it as a prop because that's what it is.
Correct.
And for people that think that there's two, maybe it's your Thunderbird photograph, right? Maybe you just want to hold out that hope that it's out there somewhere and that there is this mystery creature that's being housed by a wealthy businessman's heir, right? Because he's probably dead now. Sure. You know, Listen, I'm not going to kill your dream. I'm not going to rain on your parade, right? I'm not going to
I
piss in your
will.
Cheerios. Yeah, Tobias will. If you like that
I
kind of
will.
shit, ask him about it.
It's true. Well, because here's the deal. That kind of conspiratorial thinking isn't all fun and games. It's not. It's dangerous. We see it all the time. Hell, we've seen it in recent years in a way that none of us probably have previously in our lifetimes. We've seen the danger of lazy conspiratorial thinking and a lack of rationality and a lack of critical thinking. We've seen what that does to a society. We can see the cracks beginning to form in our own right now. And I just cannot continue in good faith to tell people, yeah, go on and believe whatever you want to believe when I feel in my heart, that it's not just fun and games. It's dangerous for people to do that. I don't think that we should encourage people to believe in conspiracy theories that are demonstrably untrue. I don't think that we should encourage people to replace critical thinking with wishful thinking. I don't see the good in it, and maybe I'm just becoming cynical in my old age, but I mean, I have a hard time believing that anybody could look at anything that's happened, in the past several years and think that it's okay to continue indulging that shit. It's just not.
I saw somebody talk about how, like, cryptozoology, and this is like an outsider, how it's not filled with like crazy right wingers.
What?
Yeah.
Where do they hang out? Can I join that cryptozoology?
I was like, wait a minute, hold on a second. Let me tell you something. No, it was super interesting. I've been checking out that Blue Sky lately, and actually, I
Oh
kind of
yeah,
like it.
that's all right.
But that's where I saw that claim, and I was like, well, hold on a second, because it's rife with it. That's for sure. It can be a very slippery slope, and we have to check ourselves, before we wreck ourselves, if you know what I mean.
I do know what you mean.
But it just, to me, it's topical, right? It depends on the topic. The Xana, the Bigfoot woman, right? The ape woman wasn't an ape woman.
Yeah.
And it's very important for us to know that was not an ape woman, right?
Sure.
That is straight bred from racism and treating other races like they're less than. Super important that we throw that one out in cryptozoology, right? Again, it's for me, it's topical. I don't see any signs of that in the Minnesota Iceman, but I also think that it's silly to believe in because I don't think it was ever a real thing.
Right.
So,
yeah, I don't see any like problematic elements necessarily within the story itself.
Yeah.
It's just what that kind of thinking represents, like I just think that we shouldn't be encouraging people to believe in conspiracies without evidence. We shouldn't be encouraging people to believe in anything without evidence.
Sure.
And we have allowed ourselves to become so intellectually lazy and indulgent at this point that a lot of shit gets mixed in to like our belief systems, and we don't necessarily have the mental defense necessary to keep it all out. So you do get people believing all kinds of crazy shit that is really harmful. All kinds of like anti-vax conspiracies and things. And look, I know that people don't want to hear this and they don't want to recognize all the commonalities. But if you think that it's not the same thing, it is. Believing in this conspiracy is no different fundamentally than believing in the flat earth or anti-vax conspiracies or chemtrails or any of the rest for which we have absolutely no evidence that can lead people down some really dark paths. And it begins by allowing yourself to believe something like this. It begins by allowing yourself or allowing your brain to go down those paths, by like training yourself that it's okay to believe in things because they fit a narrative and not because there is actual factual evidence to support them. You know what I mean?
That's the whole story of religion right there. That's,
Yeah.
It's well intentioned initially, right? It's just designed to keep people in check and not do terrible shit, and then they end up doing terrible shit in the name of religion. And I'm using religion here. I'm not saying anybody in particular, but
just everybody with a religion. That's all.
Every religion ever. That's the way that works. I mean, like I said, it is a very yes, it can be a very slippery slope. I can recognize that. There's a difference between believing that something exists that we have not proven with science, either because our science isn't there yet, we haven't collected the data, and there's a difference between believing in a cover up.
Yeah,
like that's huge.
Oh, for sure. Well, and part of this too, because it involves like the Smithsonian and other things that the Smithsonian has been accused of covering up, very much tie into like the intersection of cryptozoology and religion, for instance. And that gets down some very bizarre right-wing rabbit holes real fast, Oh, yeah. And next thing you know, you're storming the fucking Capitol. Yeah, I mean, I'm serious. Like, it's all connected, and I just wish more people could see that and recognize that it is a fundamental lack of critical thinking in this fucking country that is holding us back. And I can't encourage it anymore. I just can't.
That's okay. You're allowed to not encourage that because, I support you not encouraging that line of thinking.
Thank you.
I think that's very reasonable. As a matter of fact, I think it's very reasonable. Well, I mean, the reason why this is a solved episode is because, to our knowledge, this is the original Minnesota Iceman, and there's no other reason to believe otherwise. And we have it. We know where it's at. You can go see it at the Museum of Weird in Austin, Texas, with your own eyeballs. And you can look at its penis.
Yeah, what does its dick look like? I was looking at the image of it, and then I was looking at...
It's completely hairy. Like, it's there.
The drawing, yeah.
But, like, the whole thing has hair on it. And, like, I'm not shaming anybody who doesn't groom those areas. Like, you do you. Like, there's nothing wrong with a 70s bush. But, the shaft and everything has hair on it.
Yeah, I don't know about all that. I mean, again, this goes against everything that we thought we knew about Bigfoot's dick. Um, which is just it's not a mark in its favor.
That's how
I'll
we
give
know
it
it's
to, you
wrong,
know.
right? That's
Exactly. The fact that it doesn't have a weird dog dick is everything I needed to know.
well, I mean, like, okay, so the shaft of it, because it's not like there's, at least I haven't seen any like close up pictures of the penis, which I don't know why. Does nobody goes here and they don't have like the humor of a 12-year-old like I do? You know what I mean? Like I would take close up shots of its wiener.
Oh yeah,
And
I would get a selfie with the Bigfoot dick. Of course I
right.
would.
Like that's like the first thing I'm fucking going for is the
Yeah.
penis, you know, and but I haven't seen like close up images. It could be the shaft is like, well, Tobias, because it is covered in hair, like a sheath.
Boy, now I've done a complete 180 and this could be legit.
I
You know,
mean,
if it's got the lipstick tube dick, that's a
right.
real Bigfoot.
I'm gonna go, and when I go there, I'm gonna ask him, can I pull the skin back on that thing? Like, can I
Right.
can
Just
I
get some
touch it?
tweezers, like some forceps, just get in there.
I'll go barehanded and I'll let you guys know exactly what it feels like. Um you know,
I'm not afraid to jerk off Bigfoot for science.
you gotta do what you gotta do. I'm just saying.
That's getting cut into a clip, I'm sure.
I'm glad it was you and not me.
Yeah, right.
But I listen. I mean, why is nobody else obsessing over this?
They're just not as smart as we are. I don't know.
It's so weird to me. But you can kind of look at it, right? Somebody go there. Somebody here's got to be from Texas, right? You have to be. Like, please go here and take close-up shots of this thing's wiener for me. It's the only dick I want in my inbox.
Yes. Yeah. For once, a woman actually asking for dick pics. The first time in the history of the fucking internet.
Right, take advantage of it. I'm gonna get so many dick pics. You're gonna be like, here it is. This is this is the minute. I'm like, it's not
Damn
hairy
it.
enough.
Right?
Because I'm talking the whole thing, the shaft and everything. It's covered in hair, and that just doesn't. It's like Patty and her hairy titties. Like it. It's like
It's weird.
it is weird. It's like, man, I believe in that footage so much, but why would it have hairy titties and no other primate does? Like,
Right.
but maybe
Yeah.
we just don't understand it. I don't know. But if it's not a sheath, right? If it's not the lipstick tube with the penis inside of it, then we know that it's for sure fake.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You know,
It's not even based on a real corpse or
no,
anything.
not even close. Right? Nobody's clearly whoever made it has never seen Bigfoot. So
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
there's that. Anyway, Tobias, do you have any final thoughts on the Minnesota
Oh, boy.
Iceman?
I'm racking my brain to think of something else I could say that'll make people hate me. I'm drawing a blank though because I've already said so much shit that people aren't going to like. I think that
Tell them that their
I don't
kids are
know.
ugly. I mean, I don't know. You know,
Right? I mean, honestly, nobody wants to hear about your fucking kids. Generally speaking, like I like kids, okay, but they're not mine.
Yeah.
Like nobody wants to hear about it.
I have one.
Anyway.
I relate. I mean,
Just say, like everybody thinks their kid is special, and I'm sure they are to you, but they're not to anybody else. So just keep it yourself.
Yeah.
Anyway. Oh God, what am I doing? No, I mean fundamentally, what I want people to take away from this is just how important it is to think critically in these situations. To not jump to conclusions and to make sure that you have a solid foundation of real verifiable, well-sourced evidence before you make any kind of determination. Because if that had happened in this case, if Sanderson and Heuvelmans had insisted on meeting this anonymous California, millionaire, if they had insisted on a serious scientific medical examination of this body before talking about what a big deal it was, then none of this would have happened. We wouldn't even know about this because nobody would care. And we'd be better off for it because nobody should care because it's nothing, and we're distracting ourselves endlessly with bullshit and fakery and losing sight of the minority of real experiences out there that are really happening to very real people. It all gets lost in this noise. So for fuck's sake, people, just use your brain, keep an open mind, but not so open that your brains fall out, and we'll just all be better off for it.
I think that is very well stated. I mean, it's a fun story, and that's okay. You know how I feel about it. But it's not proof of anything, unfortunately. And, nothing will be until we have an actual body that's not made of latex. It gives me Georgia Bigfoot hoax vibes.
Yeah.
Which maybe we'll talk about on one of these solved episodes, right? That was a cornerstone for me growing up as a young cryptozoologist.
That was a big deal. Yeah, they strung people along for a while with that.
Man, I was so invested. Listen, the first picture that they put out, I cried. I was like, oh my God, it's real. It's really Bigfoot. Oh my God, it really is real. But we all know how that turned out. So,
yeah.
Wait for more information to be available first before you jump the gun like Sanderson and Hoovelmans did. They couldn't even touch this thing, and I think that there was a reason for it, and it's because it was not real. Just speculating, but I think that's why. But again, it's a fun story to talk about. It's, of course, we're on an anniversary, right? December of 68, right? We're in December of 2024, and we're still talking about shit like this. But it's the way that you talk about it that's going to matter. When you try to present this as evidence for Bigfoot, your credibility just goes on the toilet. It's just not. It's, evidence should be tangible, right? It should be credible, good evidence. It should make sense. And so far, we don't have any of Bigfoot. And I believe in Bigfoot, and there isn't any evidence for it. It's just a bunch of stories. And, that's not to say it's not real, just that the Minnesota Iceman himself is not real. So I don't know, I guess I don't have anything else to say about it. I suppose there's no reason to drag it out any further, right? So with that being said, don't chat with teenage girls on the internet or you'll meet the Minnesota Iceman yourself, Chris Hansen. Yeah, we'll see you guys back here next Wednesday.